Welcome in, excuse me. Welcome in, everybody, to Sports Daily. Jacob Albracht, Paul Savage in for Tommy Castor today. Glad to be here with you on a Wednesday. We've got breaking news right off the top of the show that we'll get to in just a minute. We'll set things up here just a bit. We've got some NIL news as it comes to politics. We've got some NIL news that has to do with the breaking news I just mentioned. That is a very interesting portion and topic on the program today. All kinds of good stuff to get to with you today on the program. The NFL potentially has more gambling issues to get through. We've got Shocker Baseball to chat it up about. Plenty to go here. Paul, how are you this morning?
Doing very good. Glad to be in. Sorry, Tommy's not feeling good, but, that happens. And, family has to take care of family. So here I am. We're here to do the job. There you go.
There we go. We are one big happy family. Jad Chambers
right.
Producing for us. He's man in the IHOP hotline. That's at 869-1240 as always. You can join our video stream. Paul and I, the fine-looking fellas that you hear every day, you can get a good look at as well. We've got our video stream on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. Paul will toss everything out the window here and reshuffle off the top because breaking within the last, 60 seconds or so. And we were going to talk about this anyway as a possibility. It is official. Kevin McCullough is coming back to KU, Paul. And all of the sudden, we've got what I feel like will be the favorite to win a national championship next year.
Wow.
This is best case scenario for KU. This is very interesting. All the things that go into something like this, but a decision for a guy to return who absolutely fills out exactly what it is that KU would have been looking for, in my opinion, out there in the portal market. They need to fill a couple more spots. They do need to do that. But when you consider a starting five that will feature DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams, Dickinson, and now McCullough, I don't care what they do at the fifth spot, and they have a lot of great options between great young players, experienced players, all these things. That is a starting lineup, Paul, that is as good as one I can remember and seemingly complete. They need a shooter, and they've got some options there. And I think out of Towson, Timberlake could be that guy, or one of these many, ultra talented young guards that they have, but they have it. And I salivate. I was already, just insanely enthused to watch this team play defense. Now you bring back McCullough, who's as good a defender as there is in college basketball, and add that back to it. Man, what a big momentum swinging move again for KU in this offseason.
Well, if you were ever wondering about how NIL would affect the University of Kansas, I guess we know the answer to that question now at this point, and that is it's not going to affect them. In fact, it's going to enhance them because you're right. On paper, really on the hardwood, this is as good a team as will be in the country. And, it may be boring. This may be a boring season to be a KU fan. You're going to get tired of all the winning. You're going to get tired of the margins of victory. You're going to get tired of a lot of things. It's not going to be very interesting. It's going to be successful, but it's going to probably at least be a little bit boring because this is such a great lineup. Who's going to play with them? Baylor? Maybe. Texas? Well, maybe. I don't know. But somebody will step up and be that next team down. But something, if we ever wondered, how will NIL affect KU? We have our answer. Something's going on at the University of Kansas. I don't know the detail. Maybe you know the details, and you can share them a little more with the world of NIL, where KU is, what they're doing, how they're getting these kids, how much they are paying for NIL, because that is right up there. It's one of the top deals in terms of a player or a young man who still has eligibility left says, well, how much will I make? That's the bottom line. How much money is the potential for going to the University of Kansas? And it must be a bunch because you got a lot of players there. So it's good news for the University of Kansas, folks. It's great news for the state of Kansas because spotlight for this coming basketball season is going to be right here on the Sunflower State, because it's going to have, at least on paper, if not by a fairly good long shot, one of the best teams that NIL can buy.
Well, I don't think you got to look at it that way, Paul, as much as so yeah, NIL played a big factor
Well,
in
thank you.
landing Hunter Dickinson, but and McCullough too. That is a way to look at it, but there's a lot of teams able to do that. What it tells me, Paul, is there now is this place for sort of miscast NBA guys, right? We saw this with Sheboy last year at Kentucky. McCullough, I wondered if he'd get into the same scenario. Think about somebody like Perry Ellis way back in the day. Now he ended up coming back anyway, but just think about that. Those players that are really, really, really good college basketball players that don't have an obvious spot in the NBA, right? Like Grady Dick's going to go in and be a lottery pick. Kevin McCullough, it's a question of, was this guy going to get drafted or whatever? Now there's this option to go and from a marketability perspective and from the earnings potential perspective, it's not a bad thing for college basketball to be the second best option behind the NBA. It's going to make college basketball better. Everybody on one hand, Paul, will say, God, I just want to see these older players stick around, right? I want to see guys play out their careers like they used to and spend 3 or 4 years in college and become these legends of college basketball. And then on the other hand, those same people will say, oh, NIL's ruining the sport. Well, no, NIL has provided a path for that to still happen, Paul. Kevin McCullough in the past, as much time as he spent in college basketball, his best option would have been to go play internationally, likely, right? Well, now instead of that, you get another year of Kevin McCullough playing college basketball,
Right.
which is a good thing. We got that with Sheboy, another guy who is a bit miscast, right? Like elite, high level college basketball superstar, household brand that doesn't have as obvious a spot in the NBA because if you're not going to make the league and hit that second contract, your window is small. So for Kevin McCullough, this is financially, from an exposure perspective, because I don't think Kevin McCullough is going to come back and just all of a sudden improve his draft stock. Now he could become a lights out shooter or, something could elevate in his game as it has for a lot of KU players. So I'm not saying it's totally out of the realm, but the reality is, from a personal and a financial and from a business, like whatever, like his best option is to come back to college. That is a good thing for college sports, in my opinion.
Right.
And the NIL facilitates that and makes that possible.
Well, and you're onto something there because, gosh, think of all the stories in the last 10, 15 years, that the story of that young high school kid who really wants to go to the NBA, believes he's ready to go to the NBA. And in some cases, some of them are, many aren't, but some are. And he decides he wants to. Think of all the stories we've read in the past 10 years about the kid that's going to go to Europe and play in Europe for a year so he can come back because he couldn't be drafted by the NBA without a year of college or that particular age. So he's got to go somewhere and play. And he's not going to go to college. He's going to go to Europe and play. We've had those stories are long gone, my friend. They are long gone. And the fact is that when you look at the way this is going on now, we've always said, and I remember Bruce Hurdle. Bruce Hurdle, I love the guy. You knew I loved Bruce Hurdle. He was one of my really good friends. I love the kid. But he was always one of those guys that said, the problem with the NBA and even the NFL and those kind of institutions, what right do they have in a world of free enterprise, of one being the best they can do, of one being able to feed their family? What right do these franchises like the NFL and the NBA, what right do they have to tell a kid he can't make money? They don't have the right. Well, he's right, and I agreed with him, but he always made that point, and I think that this is where we're at. And we're seeing basically America at its greatest. America is a place where one can come and become as good as they can and make as much money as you want. That's what this country is all about. And now we're seeing that. And I am stunned that there's not more people that criticize that particular situation. Oh, these are college kids, for gosh sakes. And well, my gosh, we're giving them a full ride. What more do they want? They got their entire education paid for it. And we've heard that. You and I have both heard that right here on this radio show. And so we're understanding that here we are. We're letting kids and families, we're letting them change the economic outcome of their family by staying in college if they want to. And some will. Not all. Not all will change the financial fabric of an entire family, but there are certainly those in NIL that are. It's not quite as many as one would think, but this is a good thing. I'm glad to see this young man come back to University of Kansas. Who doesn't want to compete for a national championship? I always say you just can't have enough championship rings, if you know what I mean, Big Daddy. You just, if you can get another one, you go for it. And that's what some of these kids at the University of Kansas are saying. Where else but the University of Kansas would I have the best chance of winning a national championship? You know something, Jacob? I'm not going to doubt them. I think they're right. Right now, the University of Kansas is my number one odds favorites to win the national championship in college basketball. I might be wrong, could be wrong, but I kind of like their chances at this point. And the news only gets better and better, doesn't it?
It does. And we liked their chances, right? And then Uday left. And they didn't get Mbako, and it was like, okay, like I still, those are two.
I got you.
Those are two things that you're just, and it's not like it's okay. You can't win them all, but like if you asked me, Paul, what was the best case scenario for Kansas basketball as far as winning a title next year, it would be this. It would be this. It's like. This makes their team, to me, as good as it can be. And that's wild, right? Like, of all the things that happened in the offseason, like if we're really looking at, the best thing that could happen for this current KU roster. And by the way, an outright winner right now on BetMGM for KU is 12-1. Duke's still listed as the favorite, and I would imagine the market has not reacted just yet to McCullough. So, if you're looking for an opportunity here, KU is the third favorite behind Duke. They're got the same odds as UConn right now, as I've pulled this up, it's been that way for a little while. It's gone Duke, Connecticut, Kansas. But I got to tell you, like, I don't like these bets. Because it's so hard to win college basketball's national championship, right? But to me, this makes Kansas a favorite, the favorite. I don't care what anybody else across the country does with their roster, because Kansas now, I think Kevin McCullough was the absolute perfect fit for what they needed. They needed size, some great defense, and somebody that can shoot. They literally needed Kevin McCullough. That's what they were going to try to go find anyway. Besides depth, at 5, which they found a little bit of that in Parker Brown, but it's the perfect fit. And I've thought about it, like, and I've kept saying it to people. Yeah, but if McCullough comes back, like, that's perfect for them. And it was like, yeah, he's not going to come back. But the point, like, it was always, Bill Self brought that up, right? Bill Self talked about that. He doesn't just talk about that stuff unless there's a legitimate possibility. And it's one of the great things I think about Bill Self is that he's always seemed to be able to have very honest conversations with his players. And I think that's why his players trust him, right? I'm sure that at the beginning of this process, Bill Self and Kevin McCullough had a very honest conversation about McCullough's pro chances. You got to sort of organize priorities. But what is great for the game, Paul, in my opinion, is that these incredible college players that don't fit can continue to play at the next best level, because it may not have, it always hasn't been the most lucrative level, obviously, college basketball, but it can be now for certain players. And that's good, because what do we ultimately want? What does every sport ultimately want? It wants the best players playing its games. And the fact that Kevin McCullough is back, he's going to be all conference preseason. Defensively, he might be a defensive, one of the best defenders in the country, that kind of thing. That's good for KU. It's good for college basketball. Like, this is incredible. I love it. I love that and it's not that it's KU and Kevin McCullough. I mean, I like that obviously because we pay close attention to KU, but it's just anytime.
Yeah.
I loved it that we saw Oscar Shibwe come back. I love that we're seeing Hunter Dickinson come back. I mean, Hunter Dickinson, it fits the same sort of mold, Paul, with the numbers he puts up. There were a lot of years for a guy like that where it's like, man, I gotta go play pro somewhere, right? If it's not the NBA, I gotta go play somewhere. Maybe I go to the G League or I go over to Europe or I do whatever I got to do. Well, no, the best place for him was to stay in college basketball for maybe 2 more years. The one, like, fans have been clamoring for decades, Paul, now at this point, to have players in college stick around and play for a long time. And it always, like, how can you justify that if you're the guy whose body's on the line? You never could, right?
Right.
Now you can.
Mhm.
There's this obvious path. Come back and earn NIL money.
Right.
That there's a very good chance that that's your best opportunity to earn.
Yes. And you have generated a thought in my mind, which is very dangerous, but I do appreciate it. And that is that, we had analyzed NIL when this was shaping and taking form, and we really didn't know. And back in the early days of NIL, we didn't know what's going on. How's this going to work? Who's going to manage it? What's going on? I mean, we didn't know, did we? We were totally out in left field. We had no idea how this was all going to shake out. As it turns out, and this is just a thought, and you can just chime in or you can call me crazy. It doesn't matter. But it turns out that the NIL situation in the NCAA has probably worked out as best it could possibly work. And why is that a comment that I just now thought of? Is because there are no restrictions. They're allowing the free market to flow. And what was the problem with the NCAA back in the day when they tried to micromanage everybody's life? Try to manage everybody's mom and dad who takes their child's roommate out to dinner and they're on scholarship, and you can't do that. And the NCAA tried to micromanage everything. Well, now you turn the free market system loose and you just let it go. We're not having any problems. We're not seeing anything arise in terms of betting, bribes or anything else. It's all out in the open. Jacob, right now, there's the possibility that sports could literally be as good as it could be at whatever level the NIL affects. It could be better. It could actually be even better than it was back in the old days. But I guess this is being handled the way it needs to be handled. And we have kids just like the University of Kansas, a number of those kids coming back because their options with NIL money are greater than anywhere else at this time. Because who wants to go to the G League? I mean, I've said for years, that's not where you really want to go. That's where you go if you have to go, and that's where you will go if you have to go. But do you want to go to the G League or do you want to stay at the University of Kansas? Life will be better for those young men at the University of Kansas than they would in the G League.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has different priorities.
Well, you're right. No, you're right. You're right.
I agree. But it is interesting. And you've got Paul, and this is a nice little transition here. I've got just people messaging me about McCullough right and left. Everybody, KU fans are excited, Paul, and you can call in.
Well,
if
why
like,
wouldn't you be?
869-1240.
Sure,
yeah,
of course.
But it takes Dennis Dodd yesterday reporting that here we go again, Congress trying to get involved and mess with this and regulate NIL. And trying to create a committee to regulate NIL. That's where we head next. That was going to lead the show. Now we had McCullough that sets it up even better than it could have ourselves. So we'll talk about that next. Kevin McCullough is back to KU. We'll talk Shocker baseball a little later in the show, NFL with some potential gambling issues later in the show. But when we come back, as we go right on the heels of the announcement this morning of Kevin McCullough's return, we have news from the political world that Congress is trying to get involved and regulate this NIL that's out of control because, we'll get into it. 869-1240. Sports Daily. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching on the video streams. It's Albracht and Savage on a Wednesday. We'll be right back. Okay.
Dude, you gotta hear this.
Go ahead. I think I want to hear this.
Sports Daily is on KFH.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily It's Albracht and Savage on this Wednesday. Glad to be here with you. Jad Chambers producing. The IHOP hotline is open, 869-1240. If you want to react to Kevin McCullough's return, KU fans or not, does this make KU the favorite? I think it does. And I don't care what else happens in the offseason. They're going to be the favorite. And I think it's as good a roster, as complete a roster as Bill Self will roll into a season with in probably since the Doak Dotson years. Top to bottom, experience all over the court. This looks like a really, really good team coming together. Paul, Kevin McCullough's return, we can infer that it is connected greatly to NIL opportunities because we are logical human beings, and of course it is. This comes a day after Dennis Dodd reports that a House subcommittee is considering federal regulatory body to oversee NIL rights for college athletes. Now, I do think that at some point a regulatory body might be necessary. What smells in this about me is it's the new NCAA president that's been the one, barking up politicians' trees to get somebody to try and regulate this for the NCAA because it knows it can't. So I don't think this is a committee that is coming together to, as they would put it, one of the things that they highlight is to protect the rights of the athletes and, protect amateurism in college sports. Anytime you hear, by the way, amateurism in college sports, you know where that's coming from, right? That's somebody trying to take opportunities away from athletes. Anytime anybody rolls out that word amateurism, Paul, that means somebody's trying to have the athletes earn less. That's what that means. That's what that is. And so when you say you're trying to make sure that students, no, you're not. When you use the word amateurism, you're trying to basically pull money out of the athlete's pocket and put it back into to whomever's, right? And this stuff drives me nuts. Now, so there's this big long report from Dennis Dodd, and it's great. You can get it. So beyond creating a federal regulatory body, Paul, the suggested legislation would, here are the 3 bullet points: protect athletes' rights to earn NIL compensation and sign with agents. The NCAA does allow for some agency work, but for NIL purposes only. It looks like this would be more. But then we get into the other stuff. Ban pay-for-play by prohibiting boosters, collectives, and other third parties from offering inducements to attend or transfer to specific institutions, and then require registration within 30 days for agents, boosters, and collectives when NIL deals are signed. It would be the Fair College Sports Act, because they always have to have cute acronyms for these things. It would basically create a regulatory body to oversee NIL. And, yeah. Here's a quote from the lawmaker that I've never heard of before, Bill Irakis. It's Congress's responsibility to establish a clear set of rules so our young people are protected, opportunities for them are promoted, and amateur sports of all kinds are preserved. Again, key on amateur sports there. Our goal is to ensure that NIL deals are transparent and fair while protecting the integrity of college athletics. I'm intent on following a deliberative process that's open to more recommendations so we strike the delicate balance of preserving the ability of college athletes to profit from their own name, image, likeness, while maintaining the amateur status of all college athletes. Paul Savage, is Kevin McCullough an amateur athlete?
Well, technically he is because...
Why? But why? Why? What technically makes him an amateur athlete?
Well, that's a very, something I don't know. I'm not sure. I guess in my old-fashioned way of looking at things, and I go back to the days when, there were problems with anything that you got outside of the university. And when I was going to school and when you were going to school, the athletes that you went to school with, we all had certain things that we could accept, certain things we couldn't accept, certain things that could change your status of your ability to compete in the world of college sports. I mean, you did the wrong thing and you could lose your chance to play college sports. And that's not really necessarily the case today. But your point is so good because, it reminds me of Ronald Reagan. Now, Ronald Reagan had a lot of little great quips, great lines. And one of them was, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. That is kind of an oxymoron, isn't it, Jacob? I'm here to help you and I'm from the government. Or more likely what people really have experience with is they're pulled over by the police and the police walk up to your car and says, "Hi, I'm with the police and I'm here to help you." Well, we know how that usually goes. They're probably going to take some of your money. That's what's going to happen. And isn't that what this is about? The ability to control the flow of money. I mean, whenever anything is in doubt, Jacob, you're old enough to know this. When anybody says it's not about the money, what is it? Go ahead. I'm going to let you answer that.
It's about the money.
It's about the money.
So the lawmaker is Republican out of Florida named Gus Bilirakis, I believe. Again, I don't know this guy, and I don't. And the problem is too, Paul, like this is such an interesting, and Charles Barkley, when he laughed and was like, why would we get politicians involved in any of this? And that's the sentiment I think a lot of us have, because you're right. It is about the control of the flow of money, and the NCAA and universities would like more control over this, right? Because there are some universities that are losing players that they would normally be able to get. Like, are we going to go back to bags of money underneath the table, Paul? Like, when are we going to stop being so naive with all of this?
I don't know.
Like, honestly,
I don't know.
Honestly,
yeah.
Like, what needs to happen for people to understand that there is nothing amateur about big time college sports? And there hasn't been, by the way, for a very, very long time. And the NIL has nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that, right? It is actually trying to facilitate what's already happening. So, look, I think that there needs to be, it doesn't have to be the Wild West. Like, nobody's saying that. But it's just like, we've got to have a better understanding and stop calling this amateur sports. There is nothing amateur. Let's just take college basketball, because that's what we're talking about. And there's very topical stuff with Kevin McCullough here. Like, come on now. Okay. We all know he comes back, and Dickinson came over because of great NIL opportunities. Okay. And some people could scoff at that, but just remember, the tournament that they're likely going to be in part of the spotlight of will make billions and billions of dollars for the NCAA. Now, how on any planet are the employees of that $1 billion tournament not professionals, right? And so there's this fine line that continues to try to be danced, but yet every time any of this goes to court, the NCAA loses every time, and they will lose because it doesn't make any sense. So Michael McCann, to Dennis Dodd's article, who's, according to Twitter, works for Sportico as an attorney and a legal expert, points out that, look, every time one of these things comes up in Congress, and I guess there's been a bunch over the last 4 years, they never make it out of committee and even get a vote, because it is complicated. Like, because the basis of it has to be that, just like this one says, right, that you're trying to protect amateur status, right? You're trying to protect amateurism in college sports. And it's like there are many parts of college athletics that are amateur, right? At the lower levels, maybe some other sports that aren't as high profile, and that's fine. But for, men's and now women's college basketball, right? For football especially, you can't have both things. You can either treat these young men and women like professionals, or you go back to the old model and everybody's going to, go backdoor channels, in my opinion. I mean, that's so why can't we just stop trying to regulate like the potential of athletes? Let the free market pay the athletes, right? Whatever it is that the free market determines. And if you're going to regulate anything, right, you can regulate the tampering, right? No more tampering. This is our guy. You can't communicate with them, right? And in order to do that, you probably have to get contractual with it, which may already be happening. I'm not sure, but you can't tamper, right? Like, you can't come after our people, which is that's a very normal thing in the professional world, right? But anytime I hear amateur, I hear caps and things on the amount of money these people can earn and the amount of money that people are willing to pay them. And that just does not make sense to me.
I've lost him.
Okay, Paul's having an issue with his headphones there, but we're still here. But I mean, that's at the at the core of it is where do you draw that line, right? Like, where do you draw a line? Where is the regulation needed? Patricia asks us on our video stream, if they're professional, then why do they receive scholarships? Because because they're still student athletes. Like, Patricia, if I was on scholarship to be a broadcasting student, right? There is nothing that would stop me from going to take an internship or work for a TV station part-time, right? While I'm in college. If I'm if I'm a teaching student on scholarship, can I not go be a substitute teacher when I'm not in class to make money? Does that eliminate my ability to have a scholarship?
Mhm.
That would be my counter to that.
Right.
No, it doesn't. Because so if a student athlete is on scholarship to be a student, right? Why does earning based on their skill set or their trade that they're trying to go into prohibit that? Why does that have anything to do with their scholarship? That's why the NIL's always been the best option. And I cannot figure out, Paul, for the life of me, why the NCAA keeps shaking this tree, because the alternative to NIL, Paul, is paying players. If you keep taking this to court and you get this into the legal world, you will lose. And the alternative to NIL, which is essentially somebody else paying players, right? Then the schools are going to have to pay players because they're making too much money.
Mhm.
Like, it doesn't make sense legally. So why keep shaking this tree, Paul? Like, if I'm the NCAA, and I've said this for years, if I'm the NCAA, I'd be the biggest champion and proponent of NIL ever, because maybe it means I don't have to pay the players.
Right. And
If I'm the and good universities are behind this, right? Good universities fully support these things.
Right.
Because they don't, like, you can't pay it would never work. By the way, they couldn't pay the players. They wouldn't be able to afford it. And the whole thing would go up in flames. So which way are you going to have it?
Right.
Are you going to let somebody else, boosters and businesses who want to benefit from how great these guys are and involved in the community, and let them compensate these players?
Right. And
do you want to start talking about the real conversation of, hey, the NCAA tournament makes $1 billion. Now, how are the players who generate that money going to be compensated for that?
Right.
Because that's a conversation nobody wants to have.
Right. Well, and you look at the fact that already in the works, there are universities that are looking at unionizing the athletes. You know, there are unions within certain universities, all the way from custodial to teachers unions to you name it. There's some sort of union, multiple unions that are involved in the running of a university, and they're already looking at bringing the players into their realm, collecting their dues, representing these athletes, and of course that's always the goal. It's always the chase of money, and I think we need to point out at this point, where we look at all the things that are going on in NIL, and we look at the Mannings who signed for $7 million, and we look at all these other guys that are making millions of dollars, and realize not everybody's like that. But the interesting thing about that particular situation is that, Jacob, there's probably only maybe 125 universities that a kid can go to and really make some real money, because at most NCAA Division II or 1A schools that play football, or certainly NAIA Division III schools in the NCAA, these are all schools that, for the most part, NIL is not life-shaping. It's not life-altering. It's not why you choose to go to William Penn College. It's not why you choose to go to Kansas Wesleyan College. There's other reasons that you go. And basically, what do you think we're looking at? 125 schools maybe at total? I mean, where obviously we see somebody get a contract, a pair of twin sisters that play volleyball or basketball get something out of a WAC school. We get that and make lots of money.
But do you know why, Paul? because for the businesses they promote, their
Bingo.
popularity makes it worth it.
There you go.
I mean,
That's right.
that like, it's not like there are some situations where it's a strictly booster has a bunch of money and is just like super fan that wants to pay. I get it. And I'm not even sure I have a problem with that. I don't know, honestly. But when it's legitimate NIL stuff, which in a lot of cases it absolutely is, because these guys, I mean, how often did you see Grady Dick? He was on commercials. He was on car
All
wash
over the
flyers,
place.
like all these things, right?
All
Like
over the place.
that. Why? Because he's super popular. That's why. And those businesses know that's a good business decision to involve. It's no different than any endorsement. And so let's just not don't poke that bear, NCAA and politicians that NCAA is trying to lobby on this. Like, you got to stop. Embrace NIL, make it better, and just be very careful. Great timing. We'll have Kevin Saul, Wichita State's athletic director, on top of the next hour. Very busy time on the Shocker sports schedule, but we'll pick his brain, see what he thinks about that report, and where, if anything, maybe he could provide some perspective on what is needed in his mind and from his perspective. So we'll have that top of the next hour. Very, very busy Wednesday edition of the show. We'll come back. We'll tell you what Shocker Baseball did last night, what's up next for them. We are making our way through this Wednesday. If you want to react to the Kevin McCullough news, the IHOP hotline is open, 869-1240. Appreciate all the comments and the conversations happening in our comments of the video stream. Thank you, everybody, for that. We appreciate it. We'll be right back with more Sports Daily.
It's time to get back to the sports talk.
All right, let's do this thing. Go!
Sports Daily is on KFH.
Oh, man. Welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily on KFH. Jacob Albracht, Paul Savage here with you on this Wednesday. It has been a very busy Wednesday.
Sure has. Hey, can I hop in real quick?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Joe Rocco and I are going out this afternoon and run a few errands. Guess where we're stopping? Because we're going to be just a couple of blocks away from HTO, my friend. We're going to run by.
All right.
You know, Joe loves that mocha, one of those mocha coffees. He loves that stuff. I got him hooked on that, and so we're going to stop by after we get our errands run. What do you think of that? H2O is on my future today. How about that, my friend?
I think it's a very good idea, Paul.
Well,
we're having fun as the weather warms up.
Oh, yeah.
We appreciate the support. Charles on the video stream lending some support to the family business there. We appreciate that, Charles. I will let my wife know that you guys are big fans. In fact, in the spirit of that, Jad, let's while we wrap up this segment, if anybody wants a pair of free tea cards, we'll do that. You can check out HTO either east or west, 869-1240. Jad will hook up our first caller with a couple of those. You can check it out if you haven't been yet.
Right.
We appreciate the support. Paul, so coming up in the next hour, we'll start with Kevin Saul, which is great because I want to hear from him on this Dennis Dodd reporting yesterday. Because for me, and I'm willing to I see it from a certain perspective. People that listen to this show know how I feel. Like, athletes need to be compensated. Like, it's been long overdue. I think the NIL thing, while it has wrinkles to iron out, certainly has been a net positive 1,000 times for college athletics. But just, what help is needed by the universities and what is invasive. And we'll get some perspective there. But we also got a lot of shocker athletics to talk about. The softball season is over. Baseball got off to a rocky start last night, unfortunately, to Memphis, and couldn't quite complete a comeback. So they lose. That means they face an elimination game against Houston, who's been a pesky opponent for them this year. And that will be, it'll be this evening sometime. They got a late start last night because of rain and extra inning games before. But that one will be after the 2:00 game. They'll play Houston, and that will be a true elimination game. So we'll keep our eye on that. And we've got Wichita State track and field heading to the national portions of their season, and we'll get perspective there. So a lot of shocker stuff to talk about. And we find out, we haven't even talked about this yet, and we'll get some thoughts on this too. Wichita State basketball, Paul, this is one of the years they get to go international. They're going to Greece, but the key there for, Paul Mills and this new roster is they get 10 extra practice days to get ready for that. You want to talk about great timing, right? It's great timing to take one of those trips because you'd love to see the new coach and staff get more time with the players, right, in the offseason. So that's pretty good news for the Shockers too.
Well, that's true. We're gonna have a great conversation with Kevin Saul. We should be getting Kevin Saul on also the week, not next week, the week after, though, with regards to inducting Strong Hinman. Kevin has said he's going to represent Saul Hinman in his induction into the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame.
Oh, cool.
That's
all
cool.
Right. All right. Well, we'll get to all of it. Let's chat with Kevin Saul in just a minute. We'll come back. We'll have more Sports Daily. The IHOP hotline will be open, 869-1240. It's a busy Wednesday. A lot going on here. Kevin Saul coming up next.
NFL Mornings with Bob and Tom on 97.5 and 1240 KFH, Wichita's most listened to sports radio. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Guests already trust IHOP to make their breakfast favorites, and Eggs Benedicts are no different. IHOP has covered all the flavors you crave with their new line of Benedicts, from the classic Black Forest ham to the spicy fire-roasted poblano, or maybe the rich bourbon bacon jam, to the fresh pesto veggie, and more. IHOP has upgraded to high-quality hollandaise that is rich and creamy. Use this delicious poached eggs, or eggs however you like them, and throw in a toasty English muffin for the perfect Eggs Benedict. Visit IHOP today and try the new Benedicts.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Babbel. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at babbel.com/TNC.
We're going abroad for the first time in years. To Spain. So we started using Babbel.
And started learning Spanish fast.
With Babbel, you can start having conversations in another language in just 3 weeks. Babbel's conversational method teaches you real-life words and phrases. And with Babbel's interactive bite-sized lessons, you'll remember what you learned.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿De dónde eres?
¿De dónde eres? In just 3 weeks, we're starting to have conversations in Spanish.
Estoy muy emocionado para ir a España contigo.
Aww. He just said, I'm very excited to go to Spain with you. Vamos a tener mucha diversión.
And that means we're going to have so much fun.
Sí. Gracias, Babbel.
Babbel, language for life. And now try Babbel for free by texting radio to 64,000. Text radio to 64,000. That's RADIO to 64,000.
Yingling Aviation is a leader in the aviation industry in Wichita and around the world. We're innovating, leading, and hiring A&P mechanics and more. Receive up to a $2,500 sign-on bonus, competitive pay, health, dental, vision, and life insurance, 401k, paid vacation, and more. We offer a family atmosphere, creative culture, and the opportunity to advance in your career. Join the Yingling Aviation team and grow with us. All positions, apply online today at yinglingaviation.com while openings are still available.
This is Larry Ryan at Ryan Lawn and Tree. Those local Ryan pros and Clean Red trucks are employee owners, recruited from the best college horticultural programs in the country. They want to make your lawn the best looking lawn on the block. Schedule your free estimate at ryanlawn.com.
Go Hog Wild, Pet Barbecue. Hog Wild, get some for you.
It's $5.99 barbecue time. Hurry to Hog Wild for a complete barbecue meal that's sure to fill you up for only $5.99. Josh Wissing, Hog Wild partner and general manager at 47th and South Broadway, has got all the details on this smoking deal.
Get a Hog Wild sandwich delivered with our award-winning meats like pulled pork, pulled chicken, or hot links, plus your choice of classic side and a drink for just $5.99.
Upgrade your sandwich to beef brisket for just $1 more. Join us for lunch or dinner. You can also order online at gohogwild.com. Hog Wild Pit Barbecue, 6 locations in Wichita, also in Derby, El Dorado, Hutchinson, and Salina.
Go Hog Wild, Pit Barbecue. Hog Wild, get some for you. But don't be late, we close at 8.
At Hutton, we don't just design, build, and provide facility services for commercial and industrial construction projects. We build life into our team members' dreams, our clients' visions, and our community's future. Together, we innovate to overcome the challenges of the day. Together, we build a brighter future than the past we left behind. Together, we build. Find out more about our commitment to clients and communities at togetherwebuild.com.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you're always looking for ways to position your operation to create opportunities and move on them faster. With Bank of America, you get access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2023 Bank of America, N.A.
Next up, Straight Talk from Doug. Ever notice that saying no offense is offensive? No offense, but you're overpaying for your wireless. See? Offensive.
That's the Straight Talk Talk. Get unlimited plans as low as $35 a month from Straight Talk on America's most reliable 5G network. Available at Walmart and Walmart.com. On the $35 plan, first 10 gigabytes data at price speed and 2G speeds. Refer to the latest terms at straighttalk.com based on most first place ranking per metric. Second half 2022 assessments of 125 metros. Experiences vary, not endorsement.
The KFH Studios, powered by Devon James Injury Lawyers. Call 888-8888. That's 888-8888. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor. This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Hour number.
Hey, Shocker fans, want the latest on Wichita State athletics? Let's go right to the source with Shocker AD Kevin Saul.
All right, and we are back in hour number 2, and we start things off with Kevin Saul. Always appreciate these visits with Kevin, and man, there's a boatload, Kevin, of Shocker news to get to, and some topical things that pertain to college sports as a whole that we want to get to as well. We appreciate you being here. Good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, Jacob Paul. It's a pleasure to be with you, joining you from Clearwater. We had a late night last night. I think first pitch was about 10:30, and we finished up and got back to the hotel about 2 a.m.
Crazy to keep up with, and the Shocker baseball team did unfortunately fall. We'll get to that and what lies ahead in the immediate future. I don't know if you saw this yesterday, Kevin. The topical news that's come in, and we've got NIL things happening, and Dennis Dodd had a report yesterday that there's, legislation sort of being kicked around about maybe a regulatory body of NIL. And it talks a lot about amateur sports, which is a red flag for me when it comes to what's best for the athletes. But as we've looked at this, like where do you fall in how needed a regulatory body is? And do you think that's, a political necessity, or is it something that you guys as administrators and universities need to come up with? Where do you stand on all this?
Yeah, I think and we've talked about this before, and certainly it's been covered for extensively for the last 2 years. I think the hands are tied. The ADs and presidents on campuses and within various states are tied because you have such a variety. The landscape of NIL bills. I think there's 30 states with NIL laws on the books, and then of course 20 that do not. And so, in some respects, we're trying to swing above our weight class. And so you've heard a lot of administrators throughout the country talk about a federal solution. And so I think the themes that are being discussed are similar themes that Senators Tuberville and Manchin have tried to uncover in communication with the 32 different leagues. I know there's been a lot of efforts out of Washington to investigate this. So again, I think the themes are very similar, and looking for transparency, trying to level set the competitive playing field a little bit, understand the market, and set up some guidelines so that everybody's got a relatively consistent environment with which to operate.
You know, it appears to me that I don't know how a government entity would be able to level the playing field, Kevin. I look at this whole situation with regards to people trying to get their nose under the tent to get into the world of NIL, to control it, to try to ration whatever is being used for NIL. And I always wonder, and they always say, well, this is to make things even. But you know, there was a day Alabama was dominant in college football without NIL, and that UCLA dominated at one particular time in the world of college basketball without NIL. There are going to be teams that are going to dominate, and there are going to be teams that have hard times, putting great products on the field, and they struggle. That's a part of the world. That's a part of the competition of the world. What does the government think they can do to make things better? Why do they want to try to govern what seems to be working a lot better than I thought it would work with NIL, that they need to come in and tell Kevin Saul and every other AD in America what to do?
Well, again, I think there are some cascading and overlapping issues. It's relatively easy. I do it every day to narrow in on a specific issue, but also need to understand the impact of the environment and some compounding issues as well. So you're right, Paul. It's always been the case where institutions over centuries build up assets in whether it's their facilities or sports programs or academic programs, and institutions have priorities. And that piece hasn't really changed. I think when you think about NIL in its simplest, in its innocent form and well-intentioned form, the ability for our young people to profit off of their name, image, and likeness for services rendered has been needed for a very long time. So that the student athletes have the ability to do things that their regular student peers have had the ability to do for decades. The challenge has come into the inducements and the recruiting component. And, you know, we're in a deregulation phase in the NCAA right now. But at one point, I think the NCAA rule book was about 3.5 inches thick, because as soon as you set rules, the type A competitive personalities that litter college athletics in our industry are looking for ways to navigate those. And that has been the case here. I think there certainly has been some bad actors in the last 2 years in the NIL space. And so, like anything else, again, I think everything at some point becomes political, but like everything else, when it becomes, we're seeing kids that are getting mistreated and used in some respects in the current environment. We are seeing blatant misinformation getting put out there from a recruiting and promotion standpoint. We're seeing institutions overpromise and underdeliver. And at some point, because of the varied landscape nationally, with all of the different state laws and regulations, the prevailing thought is we're going to need some sort of an overarching guidance to allow everybody to operate in a transparent, clear environment.
I love your perspective, Kevin Saul, Wichita State Athletic Director, joining us, because from the outside, it's very like we're skeptical for good reason. I think I see these things and see the word amateurism used, and immediately to me, that's a red flag that says amateurism. That means less money for the players. But I don't think they're amateurs at the highest level. I think that's a little bit naive to use it that way. But if there are things that are happening that need to be regulated both ways, I suppose it's fine. I just don't know where you draw that line, because at some point, as we've seen court case after court case go against the NCAA, like at what point is the danger like you're going to have to pay the players if you can't figure this part of it out, because, you know, the discrepancy in how much money is earned in the NCAA tournament to what's earned in a technical sense by the players is, I mean, it's a dangerous slope, it seems like to me, for the NCAA to even be climbing on.
Well, it has been, and I think that's why you've seen a little bit of paralysis in terms of all the litigation here in the last 5 to 10 years. And again, in some respects, depending on who you listen to, the paralysis to be able to move forward as a governing body as a result of the unending litigation is another reason that some of the leaders in our industry are stating as a need for some sort of a federal guidance to that and a federal protection so that we can operate. And I think the second point that I certainly think about, and I think needs to be made is I don't know how relevant the word amateurism is anymore. What I will tell you is I think at its foundational core, college athletics has always been and will always be connected to education. And that's my perspective. I'm the son of a psychology professor and a advisor in a College of Arts and Sciences. And so it's about developing young people in programs. I believe that our sports programs are unique classes, unique classrooms where our student athletes learn how to fail. They learn how to succeed individually, collectively. They learn how to equip and launch as leaders of character, competence, and consequence for life. And so I think what's critically important in this entire discussion is we cannot lose the tie to education. When you think about it nationally, there's 362 Division I institutions, and many of those institutions are heavily rely on the enrollment that athletics brings. And if you disconnect the education from college athletics, what you will see is a massive reduction of opportunities for young people to obtain degrees.
Kevin, let's shift gears just a little bit to baseball. Shocker baseball, to be specific. Right now, we're looking at a situation where it's going to be tough on the Shockers. They've kind of put themselves in a jam. It's not going to be easy to advance in this thing. Talk a little about Shocker baseball, where we're at, what you're looking at, what's going on in the world of Shocker baseball at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the question, and certainly it's been an interesting journey. It has had some significant highs and some disappointing lows, but welcome to the world, right? So 56 schedule, and nobody's perfect for 56 games. I firmly believe you've always got a shot as long as the ball's still flying through the air, and we approach a game this afternoon. It looks like it's going to be around 6:30, this evening, Eastern time, against Houston, who lost yesterday as well. And so today in the AAC format is two games that involve four teams that lost their games yesterday. And then obviously it advances through the week. And so today's elimination day for two teams, and we've got to perform well. We're certainly capable. We've been a team that has beaten Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, beaten Kansas State twice. We are a team that swept East Carolina in a dominant fashion. We're also a team that has struggled in some spots, whether it's Utah Tech or Oral Roberts or Oakland or you name it. But again, I choose not to ride the highs and lows throughout the season. And, obviously we're going to look at a complete body of work as we near the end of our season and those sort of things. But again, the last 3 weeks have been tough for us. We've lost 7 of the last 10, going back to Houston, Oral Roberts, South Florida, Central Florida, and now in the AAC tournament. But we all know this is a team that can pitch it very, very well. We've got our two best upcoming. We all know that this is a team that can be incredibly skilled and adept creating offense and runs and all those things. So I'm just appreciative and proud of our student athletes and our coaches for navigating a challenging environment here the last 8 months. And we've still had an opportunity to compete today and look forward to seeing how we respond.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Kevin Saul, Wichita State Athletic Director, talking to us because the depth of that rotation has been something we've looked at as, a positive, and it'll get tested. Adler went yesterday. From an ERA perspective, he'd been the top, but you've got 3 of them there at Wichita State who are well equipped for a tournament like this. Brock Rodden, player of the year, leading that offense. He was great again yesterday. He's been fantastic. If people didn't see it, Lauren Hibbs named coach of the year. So it's right there. Houston's been pesky this year. So last night was so late that format for you guys. But Houston's on the season. Houston, has taken, I think it's 4 out of 5. But what do you get the sense of from a vibe from this team? It feels like a team that's equipped to take a punch to the jaw like that and respond appropriately. But have you had a chance to get a vibe after last night? I know it was a late night on just the psychology of the team as they go into an elimination status now.
To be honest with you, we didn't at 2 a.m. We didn't spend a whole lot of time sitting around and evaluating where we were. The idea was to get the guys fed and get them back to the hotel quickly and hope that they sleep fast for this matchup against Houston. But it's a team that's shown to be resilient, right? We're 30-24 on the season, won about 56% of our games. There's no question, obviously, if we have postseason aspirations that we've got to do really, really well here the next 3 or 4 days, and that our backs are against the wall. But again, I'd go to battle with this team. It's a team that's shown great resilience and just looking forward to seeing how they respond.
Real quick, while we have you, I'd like to mention softball. I'm just going to throw it out to you. It's a great season for softball. Softball is really on the map now at Wichita State. It's considered one of those sports as far as this city particularly goes. Your chance to think and reminisce about what was this year and the progress that Shocker softball has made and what you're looking forward to in the next coming season.
Paul, we don't have enough time to get into all that. Holy smokes.
Right. I know.
At a really high level, just incredibly proud of our young women on our program. Coach Bredbender and her staff continue to have an elite attention to detail, which produces the results that we're seeing. I think when you look at what was 4 out of the last 6 years, we've been in NCAA regional, and now it's 5 of the last 7 with 3 straight. You certainly have a great recipe and program for that. And we're working really, really hard to align our resources to their performance level in terms of that facility. And we've talked about that at length, about $2.5 million invested in the last 18 months. We're putting artificial turf in the grass areas now, and we're working really hard on the fundraising for the indoor practice facility and team operations. So we are all aligned and pulling the rope in the same direction. Finished the year 44 and 12. I think the finishing RPI was right around 23. We were right on the cusp of hosting a regional. I think an AAC championship in the tournament would have been a feather in the cap that the committee would have had a hard time denying us a regional at any rate. We go down to Oklahoma State. We show some real resilience against Nebraska in that first game. Coming back, I think we were down 5-0, came back and won 6-5. Again, I think it's a long season, right? Play 56 games, and we ran out of gas a little bit towards the end. But at the end of the day, the story is the unique individuals we have on our team, their success. They're littered all throughout the stat leaderboards in our program, and so it's really fun to see collectively and individual this group of people define Shocker softball currently and in the future. So again, we look forward to great things ahead. Coach has done a remarkable job and her staff recruiting, and we've got I hope some exciting news here in the next couple of weeks in terms of where we're headed with softball and all those things. So the future is very bright.
We'll get to track and field in just a second because I want to talk about them too. They deserve it after what they did in the conference term. But real quick on softball, as you've come in now and you're more or less completing that first run through of everything, as you took this job, have you give us perspective, because you've got it uniquely because you've got the ear really of all kinds of people in the fan base. But are you surprised from when you came in, and just how big a deal, as you talk to alumni and fans, has softball become to the university and just Shocker fans in general?
Well, it's a great question, and I think it's a source of pride. It is a point of pride for a lot of folks, and folks gravitate towards success. They want to be a part of something that's bigger than themselves. People enjoy, for the most part, doing things that have never been done before or haven't been done in a long time, and we need to do a good job of telling that story and connecting people to that. And so I think the response has been great. I was very excited with the opportunity to take this job here at Wichita State. And one of the many, many reasons was our softball program and what Coach Bredbender had done. I think I'd shared with you guys before. We took Murray State to their first NCAA tournament in school history last summer. And I remember in the team hotel sitting there and watching Wichita State play Princeton. And what struck me as an undergraduate psychology major was I could tell the connection and the culture of the team by watching how Coach Bredbender and Coach E interact with the players and how they reciprocate and how they're engaged with each other. And so obviously was very excited to come being part of that. So I think our community thought process is aligned with that as well.
Then let's talk track and field here, Kevin. So one, we haven't talked since they did what they did at the AAC Outdoor Championships, which was fantastic on the men's side, just unbelievable stuff there. But now they move on, and they're in their portion of the postseason as far as the NCAA. So what's on the plate here? Explain to folks what we need to be watching for as those preliminaries start today. You know, from a Shocker perspective or Shocker fans who don't follow it as closely, like what do we need to be on the lookout here for with track and field over the next couple of weeks?
Entire segment on track and field too, but just to rewind just a minute on the AAC championship for the men, I'm not into hyperbole and don't particularly like to overstate things. However, I will say I don't think you can overstate the accomplishment of the AAC championship this year and back-to-back here in the last couple of years. To give you a sense, when you start a track meet, obviously you do the team entry sheets. There's a lot of strategy that comes with that. There's a deadline to submit your entries for a conference championship. And so most staffs will score the meet before the meet even starts. So they have a good idea of projections and where you're going to be and what you have to do. And in our projections, we were slated to take third place to Houston by 70 and to Cincinnati, I believe it was by 38 or 40. And so to go in the last day, we were down 28 to Houston. We end up winning the championship by 2 points, which is basically nothing. We had 0 event champions, individual event champions. Houston had 6. We had 7 marks in the field events that came on the third last attempt that actually scored the points that contributed to the team victory. So if any one of those 6 or 7 don't happen, we don't win that championship. So it was a remarkable experience to be a part of it. And it truly was how you define what appears to be an individual sport has very much become a team sport in those conference championships. Now, you switch gears, and the way the NCAA postseason works in track, it is very much an individual component. And so what happens is we have 11 student athletes that are competing in Sacramento this week at what's called the West Regional. There's 2 regionals in the country. You've got to be in the top 48 in your region to compete in that region. So it's very much a qualifying and individual performance based. And then you have to finish in the top tier to actually go to the NCAA championships, which is in Austin, Texas this year. And most generally it's been held up in Eugene, Oregon at their great facility. And so what happens is you have 2 regionals that are qualifying their top tiers that go to nationals. And then once you get to nationals, the institutions that qualify the most individuals, then they'll pick back up a team score. There is no team score at the regions. It's all about qualifying and getting to nationals. So track is a very, very unique sport. In some respects, it's organized chaos. The rule book is also 3.5 inches thick because you're dealing with 21 specific event venues with rules and special and all that. So I enjoy it. It's fascinating. Coach Bolton's staff, awesome job. Back-to-back AAC championships, certainly something to be very proud of. And we'll be watching our 11 student athletes this week. We feel like we've got a really good chance to qualify several of those to the Nationals in Austin.
Super. Well, let me real quick get to Greece and the Wichita State's impending games that will be played in Greece. Now, this is great. I mean, I love this. I mean, you get to take a camera and you get some beautiful shots of a foreign country that is absolutely stunningly beautiful. But, you know, that's not what's important. There's a lot of extra practice that goes along with a trip like this to a foreign country. Talk a little about this trip to Greece and what this really means for the Wichita State basketball program.
Well, I appreciate that question, Paul. It's the timing could not be any better for us.
Right.
And very, very intentional. Obviously, we've got a new coach in Paul Mills and his staff, new system. We have a lot of new student athletes on our roster. And so this is an opportunity the NCAA gives institutions. It's permissible for institutions to take a foreign tour every 4 years. And so we're eligible to do that. We're going to do that. What that allows you to do, Paul, is practice as a team for additional opportunities, additional days that you wouldn't otherwise get if you weren't taking a foreign tour. And then obviously you get to travel and compete in 3 or 4 games against varying levels of professional teams in that country. So I think it gives our coaches an opportunity to learn our roster in a unique way. I think it gives our student athletes an opportunity to learn each other, to showcase their talent. It gives our coaches a jump start on the season from a strategy standpoint. And so, again, I think the timing could not be any better for where our program is now, and looking forward to the trip.
Oh, Kevin Saul, too much to talk about today. We appreciate the time out from Florida. We know it's an hour earlier out there. Good luck to the Shockers today. Baseball, you will hear the Shockers today, by the way, when that game starts. It was a little late last night, but the expectation is around 3:00. We'll see an elimination game against Houston. You can hear that right here on KFH. Kevin, travel safe. Good luck today, and we will be right back here in a couple weeks to recap it all.
All right, sounds good. Thanks very much for having us on the show, guys, and go Shockers.
There goes Kevin Saul, Wichita State's athletic director. Always appreciate the insight in the overall arching themes of college sports in a very busy time in Shocker athletics as well. We'll come back. We'll digest some of that. We'll get back to the news if you missed it off the top of the show. Kevin McCullough is back at KU. Makes them the favorite, in my opinion. What about you? The IHOP hotline is open now. 869-1240 is the number. We'll be back with more Sports Daily right after this.
Daily with Jacob and Tommy. Still to come, Jim Rome at 11, right here on KFH.
The commercials are over.
Yo, I haven't got all day.
869-1240.
Time to get busy.
This is Sports Daily on KFH.
All right, welcome back in, everybody, to Sports Daily. Hey, you can use the BetMGM bonus bet to place your next wager on any game in any sport. To receive your bonus bet, all you got to do is log into your BetMGM account every Saturday and Wednesday between May 13th to June 7th to bet on any game of your choice. Then add any type of bet on any game to your bet slip and activate your bonus bet. No deposit or additional wager required. Want even more BetMGM action? Enjoy the best daily promotions, live betting options, and the all-new signature bets only at BetMGM. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly and offer resources to help you make appropriate choices. Promotion may differ per customer. BetMGM.com for T's and C's. 21 plus and physically present in Kansas to bet. Existing customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days from issuance. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Paul, I got my bonus bet. I told you I was checking BetMGM earlier to check the KU odds at 12-1.
Right.
When I got that bonus bet. I immediately placed that bonus bet on KU to win a national championship.
You know, I don't think you're crazy. That's not crazy.
It's crazy to bet a college basketball national champion because it's so difficult to win the tournament.
Right.
However, when we get to a point in this season, KU will not get 12-1 odds on KU.
That's right. And this is like inside information for you, isn't it? I mean, seriously, this is like taking advantage of information that not everybody gets to digest all at once.
Well, I mean, we all got the information at the same time.
Well,
it's not, I don't know how much better. So Duke was the betting favorite when I checked at 10-1. And I don't know how much better it's going to get than that because it is. Like, it's insanely difficult to win a national championship. Like, when it comes out, and I don't think it's out yet, like to win the Big 12 next year, that might be, even though the odds will be much lower, that is, and the Big 12 is going to be tough again, right? But it's just that because of the tournament format, right, it gets really difficult.
Right.
So, I do think, though, and I've said this, and I know that I felt differently than a lot of KU fans because I've talked to a lot of KU fans. I thought that Kevin McCullough might be back. And people thought, no, he's not going to put, but Bill Self brought it up. And I just, he's not going to do that, Paul, unless there's a real chance in those conversations. And Bill Self in the release of the university, basically a quote today on the news, is saying he did exactly what the draft process is designed to do. He went, he tested it, he got feedback. Now he can come back and try to improve his status. And if you don't think Kevin McCullough is going to get there, that's fine. He may not. But just think about the track record, right, that KU has in doing this for players. You know, most recently, Jalen Wilson's a great example. How much more valuable did Jalen Wilson get as a prospect this past season? I would venture to say a whole lot more valuable. Ochai Agbaji may be even a better example, Paul. So it is possible. And when Bill Self says something like that, I listen to that. And I've always thought this was a possibility. And then you enter into the equation the fact that KU's already going to be one of the favorites and that NIL opportunities in a year where everyone perceives it to be a good one for KU. Here comes back Kevin McCullough. It's best for him. It's best for KU, obviously. I mean, he was a perfect fit for what they needed to still round out the roster. And it's an interesting component now. I think that'll be more amplified in college basketball than any other place, Paul. I don't know that we're going to see this in the NFL, right? Like I don't think we'll, or sorry, in college football.
Right, I know what you mean.
Outside of maybe quarterback, right? We won't see it to the same level in college football as we do. But in college basketball, where rosters are smaller, all these things, this is a very real thing, I think, that will become a part of the game. And I think it's going to be good for the game of college basketball. Like if you're a college basketball fan, players like Kevin McCullough playing another year of college basketball, it's a good thing. It's a good thing for everybody. And I'm excited about it. I definitely think it makes KU the favorite, though.
Right. But the problem with
X's and O's, Paul, I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah. But with KU and in the world of college basketball, for goodness sakes, you and I, sitting here right now, not even understanding that rosters are on certain teams are still going to change, are going to add, maybe subtract. There's going to be things going on. But you and I could sit here and probably come up with 10 different teams that we think would have a possibility of winning a national championship. In the world of college football, that's a different thing. We're going to sit here and we're going to talk about 2 to 3 teams that could win a national championship. Therein lies part of the problem, or part of the difference, I guess I should say. You brought up the position of quarterback. And like with the NFL, we have talked about this over the years, way back into the day, with what is the most important position in all of professional sports: hockey, basketball, football, baseball, you name it. And we've always said quarterback is the number one position, and on an occasion, even a great pitcher on a baseball team, on a major league roster, only pitches every 4 to 5 days. So, but that being said, football is a different bug, if you would. The things are different with that. But yeah, you're right. This is a big deal. But man, there's still going to be some things going on with college football, because that is a small window for only a few teams. 2, 3, maybe.
Would you have ever thought TCU would be in a national championship last year?
No, I wouldn't. I'm being honest. I'm telling you the truth.
If NIL and transferring didn't exist as it currently does, do you think TCU would be in a national championship last year?
No. That's a great point. No, because you're exactly right. No, the answer is obviously no. And of course, portals and all the things that are going on. There are teams that are really learning how to use the portal and want to use the portal, and that's made a huge difference. So no, that's a very good point. TCU would not be where it is right now. As a matter of fact,
it will take some time.
Yeah.
But this will level the playing field as much as it can be leveled. Right.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I understand that Georgia right now is the team, right? Or Alabama.
Well,
I understand the advantages they have. They've earned those advantages.
Oh.
What I'm saying is, I've always thought this. It will ultimately level the playing field more than the model that existed before. Now, in football, that's going to take more time. In basketball, no. In basketball, it's happened since day one. Like immediately, we've seen it in college basketball.
Right.
But in football, it's going to take a longer period of time. We saw 2 very different paths to a national championship game in football last year. Georgia, who still recruits all the best high school players and brings them in, right? And develops them, and just it's just you have more talent. Or there's the TCU model, where you do a really good job evaluating players that might need a bigger opportunity. You bring them in, and all of a sudden you turn the tides. Both ways are conducive to winning.
Right.
And I think that more teams will have the opportunity to get there than ever would have. I'm not sure. And look, TCU didn't show up well in the national championship game. I'm not sure TCU ever has a spot in a national championship game under the old model. But they do now.
Never.
Right. And
Yeah.
and so that's the good of it. And I just, as it pertains to basketball and Kevin McCullough, I'm just excited a great college basketball player's coming back. I'm excited for the possibilities of this roster under Bill Self now, who will be motivated to shake off the rust of his health scare. But like the defensive possibilities of this team, like it's a cool thing to see. And look, if you're not a KU fan, you've got a villain, right? Like if you're a K-State fan, if you're any other fan, like you've got your villain next year. That's great too, Paul. That makes things more exciting also, right? Everyone's going to be like, oh, KU, they got in Dickinson and they do. Great. You've got your villain. It will make things more entertaining and more fun to watch.
Well, I don't know if villain's the right word. I would say you have your top dog. And let's face it.
I'm talking about from other people's perspective.
Well, but everybody always circles KU on their basketball schedule. Everybody in the Big 12, if you said, who do you want to beat more than anybody else? It's the University of Kansas. That's the way it's been since Ted Owens, for guys' sakes. That's the way it's always been. And probably for the foreseeable future, particularly with the success they're having with NIL and getting kids and using the portal and doing all those other things. Yeah, it'll probably be that way for a while. And the one point that I will point out you brought up something real interesting, and that was the comparison between Georgia and TCU. And you look at Georgia, what are they? They're a power football team that plays with strength, plays in the trenches. And TCU is that average team that uses speed. They spread the field and they, I don't want to say they avoid physicality, but that's not their deal. Their deal is speed, spread the field, get players out in space. Those teams never win. I mean, I guess they can win. I guess they do win. But those teams never really set a precedent and become that factor in long term. Teams like Alabama, teams like Georgia, those are the kind of teams that use physicality to win championships. And we're still in a world of football where physicality wins championships. So NIL has a lot to do with it. And it makes me wonder, how's Georgia doing it the old way? Well, they probably have a great NIL program going along with the fact that they tell moms and dads and players, I'll get your son to the NFL if he comes to Georgia. That's how it's being done with them right now. And it'll probably continue. I don't know why it wouldn't, but there is the difference between basketball and football when it comes to that.
Well, sure. And look, you're playing in the SEC. They're always going to have an advantage when it comes to football at the moment.
Right.
And we'll see if that evens out. But it is an interesting day, and certainly one that's taken us down a lot of roads as we get the Kevin McCullough news on the heels of seeing news that Congress is trying again to get involved and figure out a way to regulate. I appreciate Kevin Saul's perspective on that, because it does give some path for a desire and need for regulation. It's too big for administrators to try to handle, especially with all the different state laws that are in play. So I get it, but we just can't become a model that tries to throttle the earning potential of players, which is what I fear sometimes whenever you get to these conversations. But all good stuff. You can go back and listen if you missed any of it, by the way, on the Odyssey app. We're going to come back. We did have an Eastern Conference Finals game in the NBA. We'll touch on that when we return. Sports Daily on a Wednesday. Welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily here on KFH. Celtics Heat. The Celtics stay alive. Jason Tatum goes for 33, and they get the win over Miami 116-99. It's all fine and dandy, Paul. Is this a situation, do you think, where there's any chance whatsoever of the historic down 3-0 comeback by Boston? Certainly the talent is there. But I think more than Boston, what we've seen from Miami in this postseason just makes it feel like it ain't going to happen, right? Miami is so well coached. and so, disciplined and bought into what they do. Losing 4 straight to Boston and what we've seen out of this postseason seems as impossible as it ever is in the NBA.
Well, my heart says yes, they can come back, but my brain says,
I know, because we want it to.
Yeah, but my brain says no, because we understand statistics and we understand that the chances of coming back from 3-0 down is just almost impossible. In fact, I don't believe it's ever been done in a conference final like this. So there you go. So
not 3-0, no.
Not 3-0. So, no, I guess it's not going to. But on the other hand, you can always look at it. If we're looking at stats, you got an 8 seed who had to play their way in to even get into the tournament. So, I mean, I guess it can happen. And if ever there was a scenario that it could happen, maybe this is the one, because Boston's really good when they're playing well, and they certainly haven't played well in this series. And of course, Jimmy Butler's just been unbelievable. I mean, this has been like the highlights of his game, because we don't see that much about him being in Miami. We just don't see him. We see the Denvers of the world and the Lakers and the Warriors. Those are the teams that we see, we become familiar with. Even Memphis to a lesser degree. But I want to see a few more games in this. And wouldn't it be something if they did come back? Boy, would we have something to talk about next week.
Oh, yeah. Well, we want to see it too, because the finals are on a set schedule, right? So if they don't, we're just like on pause for a while.
Right.
All right, Paul, before we take our last break real quickly, people may or may not know this about you. You're a thespian.
I am.
You guys have a new play coming up. What's going on?
Well, last week I was asked, they had a cancellation on a particular play, and the director called and said, "Hey, can you step in and fill in? It's not a lot of time, but we need you. Can you come help?" And I said, "Sure." I said, "What play are we talking about?" And they said, "Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing." And I said, "Did you say Shakespeare?" She said, "Yes, Shakespeare." I said, "Are you sure this is a Shakespeare play?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Can you imagine? You know me, Jacob. Can you imagine me doing Shakespeare? Jad, hop on real quick. Jad's my Shakespeare expert, by the way. Jad, do I look like a Shakespeare guy? You know me. Am I a Shakespeare guy?
Maybe Falstaff.
Oh, that's
Sorry, theater joke there.
Yeah, that's a theater joke.
Yeah, you guys lost, but
the beer. Come on, the beer.
The beer.
Well, that's a character.
Well, and a character,
and a character. Anyway, I'm doing Shakespeare in the Park, which is a series of 12 shows in 3 weeks, 4 days a week, and every one, Jacob, is at a park, a different park in the city. We do one in Derby, do one in Park City, do one
cool.
in other cities, but it's all in the park. It's out in the open. You bring your little chairs, you set them up, you bring your own cooler. It's really kind of cool. But I'll be real truthful, I'm lost. I'm doing lines, I don't know what they mean. I am not the smartest guy in the world, and you can attest to that, Jacob, but I am not Shakespeare smart. I do not know what my own lines even mean, but I'm doing it, and I'm kind of having fun. I like the people I'm working with, but that's it. We'll let people, we'll zero in on when it's going to happen and where here, maybe in the next couple weeks. But anyway, thanks for letting me mention that, but it's going to be interesting. Yeah.
Bill Shakespeare would be proud.
Yes,
Paul
he
Savage.
would. He would.
He's more than a big dumb jock.
That's right,
Paul.
Those were good, hard, very helpful words. Not a big dumb jock. Thank you.
I said more than a big dumb jock. I didn't say not a big dumb jock.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Well, you can be both.
I am both. Yeah, I am both, probably. But anyway, we'll go have us a Falstaff. Get it? Now do you get the joke?
I got it.
Okay.
I still don't understand what it has to do with Shakespeare. That's okay. You're barking up the wrong tree.
Look it up.
I'm not a well-groomed thespian. I contend that Dumb and Dumber is the greatest movie of all time.
Oh my gosh. No. Are you serious? Are you being serious?
I'm dead serious. I think it's the greatest movie of all time. Yes, absolutely.
We're going to have a segment on movies. We are going to have a segment sometime this summer on movies.
I'm the wrong guy to have it with, but we'll give it a shot. Yeah, I was not a good student in film class that I had to take.
Wow.
I don't like to be told what to like. I like what I like. 869-1240. I do like Paul Savage as an actor, though. Go check out the plays.
Thank
It's a lot of fun. 869-1240. We'll come back. We'll tell you what's on tap today here. Sports Daily returns right after this. thank you to Paul Savage for jumping in today for Tommy. Hey, programming note. So we'll just keep an eye on things. Whenever it is that Wichita State baseball plays Houston, we'll have it. It is scheduled to go 47 minutes after the 2 o'clock game ends. So, if it's a 3-hour baseball game, you're looking at, 5:45, 6 o'clock. So we'll see if that happens. It certainly didn't yesterday. They didn't start until way, way late into the night. So Houston up next. It is an elimination game. You'll hear it here, and we'll try and keep you up to date as best we can throughout the day on when exactly that will happen. Our appreciation to Kevin Saul for joining the program. You can go back on the Odyssey app and listen to that conversation. A lot of good stuff. That's it for us today. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. For Jad Chambers and Paul Savage, I'm Jacob Albracht. We will see you Thursday.